thank you for taking time to talk to us today and share this great information with all the business owners that are watching. For anyone that's not already familiar with you and what you do, you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've been doing.
Sure. So I have just put the finishing touches on what is my 50th book. So thank you. So I self-published 26 myself, and I'm Hal Elrod's business partner in the Miracle Morning book series. And then I coach a select few people to help them to birth their book, launch their book, and sell lots and lots and lots of books. In my previous life, I was a business coach, so I have married the business coaching hat with the self-publishing, successful self-publishing hat, and so now that's what I do. I write the words, and then I help people write the words and sell the words.
Okay, so why do you think it's important in this day and age for every professional to write a book?
Well, everyone has a business card, and everyone has a brochure, and everyone has a website now. And there is one thing left that differentiates you from your competitors, that tells other people that you are actually the expert, and that is having a book.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So say I'm your typical busy professional business owner that already thinks I don't have time for anything. How do I get started? Like, what's that first step to get me going? What's that one thing I do that maybe catches a fever a little bit, or at least lets me see I can do?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, we're going to do a time audit because everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. And yet there are some people who run 30 companies and have big families and travel the world, and they manage to get it all done. So I'm going to call someone out on the I don't have time excuse, which I think is a little lame. But after that, I really want to find out if someone has a desire to write a book, if they feel like they have knowledge that they want to share with other people. And that might come in the form of them recognizing that they're answering the same questions all the time. They're talking to the same type of person, their ideal client, and they're having trouble closing the sale or getting the deal because there's so many people out there saying, I'm the best, no, I'm the best, no, I'm the best, no, I can do it. And they want something that differentiates themselves. And then as far as finding the time, I actually have, in addition to You Must Write a Book, I have a book called The Nifty 15, which is write your book in just 15 minutes a day. So it's really how to carve out just 15 minutes every single day by hook or by crook to get that book written over 100 days, 180 days, or even a year. A year isn't too long. It feels like a long time, but a year goes by in a blip.
I said that brings up an interesting question. You said to decide if you think you should write a book, you have something to share. What if you don't think you have something to share? What if you're a professional that's good at what you do, but you don't see the value? How do you identify that? How do you sit back and say, okay, yeah, I do have something to share?
Well, if you're working and you have clients, you have something to share. And I'm going to suggest that there is someone who needs to hear what you have to say, that in a way that only you can say it. And let me ask you a question. Have you read something for perhaps the 10th time and it finally didn't go here, it went in, and you resonated with it and it really stayed with you? And that's because the deliverer of the message actually delivered it in such a way that it was receivable by you. So you, the professional who does not yet have a book, who thinks, well, maybe I haven't been in business long enough. There are so many books that have been written on this topic. Like, what do I have to share? There are people out there who are literally looking for your message and looking for you and wanting to find you. And the book is a way for someone to find you anywhere that they happen to be.
I know you're a proponent of writing every day. I'm assuming that ties in with your 15 minutes
Sure.
a day. You can write a book. What's the benefit of just making sure you sit down and write every day?
Well, and it's fortunately or unfortunately, it's like diet and exercise. Like if you stay up on your program and your pants fit, the words get down on the paper. If you mean to do something for a really long time, and believe me when I say I'm the queen of meaning to do something for a really long time, so I've backed myself into a corner by just committing to do something for that 15 minutes, whether it's going to the gym or writing or making phone calls or whatever that looks like. There really is something to building that muscle and keeping the muscle strong, as opposed to writing for, I work with some people who think, oh, they'll just find a time when they can spend an entire day, or they'll go on a retreat and not be interrupted, which never happens. We're busy professionals, right? Just when we think no one needs us, we can sneak away. The wheels come off the bus, right? So it's personal or professional. I find that having a regular routine keeps us in the flow of also what we're talking about. I don't have to reread everything that I've written if I was just in the document yesterday or on Friday and it's Monday. There's not so much time has passed that I have to kind of take some time and refresh my memory about what's happening.
Do you find that also helps with creativity? I know when we talk about like the brain, you've got the automatic part of the subconscious and the conscious part where you focus. I know a lot of doing habits is getting that subconscious part to control some parts of it so you can be more conscious and more creative. So is that another part to that, is if you're not a gifted writer or you're not a practiced writer, getting those habits in, let your brain start to go, oh wait, we do have something to say that's a little more interesting over here.
Yeah, so it's just like when you sit down to write an email and you know you have to write an interesting email or a difficult email. Isn't the first question, how am I going to start this email? And don't you sometimes write paragraphs 2, 3, and 4 before you write the first sentence? You don't have to have all pieces of your book figured out before you write it. It helps to write from an outline. It helps to have an avatar or ideal reader, which is also your ideal client that you're marketing to. And yet sometimes you'll find that there's a subject that you are compelled to write about and you think, okay, this is a topic I talk about all the time. I'm just going to say what I say and out of my mouth in the words. It's just the same thing. So yes, there is something to building that habit, but also to not trying to make it perfect. You are not going to write a perfect first draft. Nobody does that. Sorry. Sorry.
I wouldn't think anybody would. So I guess that's another good question too. You're probably not going to write a perfect book. You're definitely not going to write a perfect first draft, and maybe even not a perfect fifth draft. So who do you reach out to? Who do you get an editor? Do you just read 10 of your 50 books and get the techniques there? Like, what's that best process for creating a good finished product?
That's such a great question. You always want a professional editor, and by professional editor I mean look at their tax return and there's a little box that says what's your occupation. You want it to say editor, not anything else that they're like, oh, I'm a reader or I studied English in high school, so I've got this. There's a definite level of professionalism that you want to use to approach your book that you use to approach your profession. And just like you're not going to phone it in, you can give your book to 10 or 50 advanced readers. And that's part of the advanced reader team process, which comes after editing pass number 1, editing pass number 2, and proofreading pass. So that by the time the advanced reader team gets it, they are hard pressed to find errors that have been missed.
So not to get too edgy, but recently we do know that not everyone wants to show you their tax return. So what's my other option for finding that or qualifying that good editor?
That's funny. I'm just gonna leave that there in the little bubble over my head. There are writers, authors who have published several books who are professional authors who use professional editors, and any one of us can recommend someone who's good. And just reach out to someone who has a professionally produced book and ask for recommendations. And then what you want to do is talk to the editor and see what their style is like. And I just want to add one extra piece of advice. I have written 26 of my own books. And when I get them back from the editor, they look like a crime scene took place. So when I say there's no perfect first draft, it's even for someone who does it all the time. And it's disheartening for someone who is a practiced professional. We're good at what we do. We show up and we crush it, right? And then for someone to send us back our paper like we're in 10th grade English class with a bunch of red ink on it can be very disconcerting. So I just want to set the expectation that that's normal. And that means you've got somebody really good because they are taking your words and making them readable and wonderfully readable for your potential reader, who is also, dare I say, your potential client. And it's your first introduction to that person.
Perfect. So we know, and you've already mentioned this, that having a book builds authority. It does set you ahead of everyone else. Do you see an additional marketing benefit to that? I mean, are you just the general exposure? Are you using it as a marketing piece? I think I heard in one of your interviews you talked about leaving cards about the books or giving people ways to look into your books and more exposure to them. But as a standalone marketing piece? Do you see a value in that as well?
Oh, absolutely. I all the time get people who are interested in working with me. And when I was doing straight business coaching and had my first book, a lot of times that's how people were referred to me, as someone would say, this is my business coach and here's a copy of her book, which is a little bit like a mic drop, right? Like kind of like, oh, you've got 10 business coaches you could talk to, but this one has a book. This real estate agent has a book. This interior designer has a book. It's different when you have a book standalone, and it also helps you to charge more often and open doors and get to places you couldn't otherwise go faster, easier, better, all the good things. All the good things. All the good things.
So one thing I thought was really interesting that you talk about, pretty much all of us have heard of the concept of multiple streams of income when it comes to building our financial, platform. Yes. You talk about having a book as one of those multiple streams of income, which is something I had not heard before and an interesting concept. So why do you think having your own book is a better stream of income than some of the other options out there?
I don't know that it's a better stream of income. I know that it opens doors. I know that since I've had a book, I've had lots of other options to do joint ventures and programs and processes and partnerships because I was an author. There are multiple streams of income that come from a book. So there's the digital book, the paperback, the hardcover, the audio book, the workbook, and then there are the extension products that come from your book potentially. So speaking, coaching, consulting, training. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about how you can repurpose the content that you're using. We could talk about this for an hour, so I'll stop and see what your next question is. But I don't know that there's one that's better than the other. And certainly, I when someone says you don't make any money with books, I can show them my tax return. I'm not gonna, but like speaking of tax returns, like I legit make 6 figures from my own books, and then I'm Hal's business partner. And so when someone says you can't make money from books, they just don't know what they're doing.
Makes sense. Well, I mean, I think that's any business. You'll meet a lot of people that you can't
Correct.
do this, you can't do that. And usually it's because they just don't have all the knowledge base.
Right. That's right. You have to know. You have to know. And then I'm doing this fitness challenge right now, and my workout buddy was at lunch with her girlfriends, and she said they stopped listening the minute I got to the part where it was hard work. They were like, "You look amazing. What are you doing? Please tell us." It's donuts and a lot of Netflix binging, and they were not interested in the hard work part of it. And definitely, no matter what your business, whether it's writing books or using books to market your business, there's still work involved in it without question.
Of course. Well, I think that leads into another good question. So that lack of knowledge base, what's the biggest mistake you see people making when they set out to write a book?
I see people rushing to just get it finished because it's a big project, and they somehow think that they can phone in the quality of the book. And so when I wrote You Must Write a Book, I was really excited by all what I call the book babies that would be sent to me, people who are inspired to write a book, and then they would produce their book and send them to me. And sometimes I make the face right when I get the book, because the attention to detail isn't there. And I had someone tell me they didn't want to use punctuation on their book cover because of Amazon's search engine yesterday. And so, whoops, we forgot to full justify the interior. We didn't get an editor or a proofreader, so it has lots of mistakes in it. They didn't fully think through the different elements of having the book, what they want the book to do for them, what they want the book to do for the reader. And so I put out a book, but I didn't think about, and this is me, every mistake I talk about, except for the punctuation I on the cover, I've always done that. But except for that, all the mistakes I've made. So there literally is no judgment. It's just what I see. You asked, this is what I see. I see covers that are not well done because somebody wants to do them as cheaply as possible, and that's unfortunate. There's lack of editing, lack of proofreading, lack of marketing, or they think, oh, I'm going to get a book and put it out there, and then, woo, I've made it. And that, unfortunately, is like, I completed my 4-week exercise and diet program in 3 hours, and so why am I not then? Yes, I'm already finished. And so unfortunately they don't think about 6 months from now or a year from now or 6 years from now. So when someone says to me, I want a best-selling book, like I want a bestseller, I want to be a bestseller on Amazon. I'm like, well, I can make you a bestseller on Amazon in 4 hours. Like you can get your bestseller tag and then I can give you a smack on the butt and send you home. But I think what you really want is a best earning book. You want a book that's going to make you money today, in 30 days from now, in 30 months from now, and potentially 30 or 130 years from now. That book could still be paying your estate if your estate stays up with the copyright. And it's a total different approach to the book.
Well, I think that's great. And that was actually, if you ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of my favorite stories is when he meets with a writer and he differentiates between best writing and best selling author at that point. And I think your point's very good speaking to that as well. That there is a difference between putting out a book that hits the bestseller on Amazon and putting out one that makes money, consistently makes money. So I think that also leads to another good question. If we're on board with you, if we say, yes, a book's a great idea, what's a realistic time frame? Like, what's realistic to say? If you do your 15 minutes a day, are we looking at a year, 2 years?
6 months.
I mean, I'm sure it's different for many people. 6 months. Okay.
6 months is normally, if someone can write 250 words in 15 minutes, and generally people can type 60 to 80 words a minute. So you have to kind of do the math, like you're composing, it's a little different, but just getting the words down on paper, those words will add up. You'll do 1,000 words every 4 days. So within about 100 days, you'll have lots and lots of words, and then you'll downshift into producing the product and doing the marketing, building your list, getting everybody ready. So 6 months I have the holy Batman, my pants are on fire 100-day time frame, which is I need a book because I have a speech I'm giving or an event that's coming up in 3.5 months time, 4 months time. And then there's 6 months, which is a nice sweet spot for a lot of professionals who can carve out an hour total a day or a week, an hour or two a week to really focus on the process. And they have help. They have an assistant that they can delegate the assistant tasks to. A year, in a year's time, I publish between 9 and 20 books. So it's not unheard of that someone could do one book and that's mine and others that I help and co-authoring that I do, things like that. So the process is down to a science, and in You Must Write a Book, I provide a checklist and a time frame and how long you should give your editor to do the editing and when should you get your book cover designed and who does it and all those things. And if you're focusing on it as an extension of your business, then it will get time on your calendar. It'll be important. So I think 6 months to a year is about a good time frame. If you give yourself 2 years, then in about 18 months, you'll start on it and you'll finish in 2 years. You're going to take the time you give yourself to do it. And so I think it's better to give yourself 6 months and then take a year than it is to give yourself 2 years and take 4 years to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Urgency does push you a little bit. So
yeah.
And I think there was a study or it was a study actually. I think that basically people would fit whatever work they could into whatever time frame you gave them. So if you said they had 8 hours, it magically took 8 hours. If you told them they had an hour, usually they got done in the same work in an hour too.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, there's a difference between urgency and carelessness, or the urgency and I'm just going to not get it done the way that it needs to get done and just get it out there. And you're so full of regret. It's like showing up at a black tie wedding in shorts and flip-flops and realizing that you didn't read the invitation. It wasn't a beach wedding. It was a full-on situation and you weren't prepared for it, right? And then you just feel, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but I certainly have shown up somewhere not dressed appropriately, and like the whole time I'm just like, please let me die. You don't want to feel that way about your book, because once the image is on the internet, it's always on the internet. Yeah.
So one other thing you brought up is a good question. If we're looking for a book with longevity, what do we focus on before we start? Like, what's the thing that we need to keep in mind that's going to prepare us for that, that's going to not have us write a book that's obsolete in a year or, goes up and goes right back down?
Evergreen content is really important. So let's use a real estate agent, for example. If you're writing a book for first-time home buyers are always going to be the same type of people. So you're going to use that information, and they're always going to be the same type of people. Now, the loan that they get is not always going to be I don't know what they did in 2007, but it was like the arm rate that you could finance 100%, and no, right. So the financing is different. So you want to stay away from specific information, but the general information is always going to be the same. You're going to need a percentage down. These are the tried and true pieces of information that every home buyer from the beginning of time has used, and every home buyer till the end of time will use. That's the information that you want to put in there. Having said that, there's something fun about books like What Color is My Parachute? Which is a book that is updated annually. So you would always have a chance to go in and review the book and make little adjustments that make it updated information, and then put out a new edition of your book. I've done a 10th anniversary edition of one of my books, and that was really fun. New cover, new size, new information, new writing, better writing. It's like, oh wait, let's have a bonfire. How about we just take that one off of sale and we put up a new book? That would be great. Yes. So you do have the option to do something that is cutting edge information and then updating it and putting a slightly different cover on it, a different color, a different font, something like that differentiates it with a big, huge, 2017, 18, 2020, whatever on the cover of your book. But if you want to have a book that's going to be around forever, then that's your way to do it, is to think about the evergreen content that someone in your field would be sharing with potential clients in your field.
That's a great strategy. Thank you. Okay, so book's done. What's the number one thing to think about before we start trying to promote it?
Well, your book shouldn't be done when you think about promoting it. So I will say that there are two phases to a book's marketing life, and it's today. If today is your first day where you're thinking, okay, I'm going to write a book, today is the first day you start marketing your book. There are lots of things that you can do. And you can ask me if you want me to talk about those. But so phase one starts from the moment you conceive of your book until about 30 to 45 days after your book has launched. So that's phase one. Phase two is from 30 or 45 days after your book is launched until you die. That's phase two. So you're going to start talking about the book that you're writing with people so that they can give you input. So you want to be collecting information, gathering examples and ideas, jotting down in your notebook or your bullet journal or your journal or in an Evernote document, different things that you want to have in the book so you're always capturing your ideas. Do yourself a favor, get a shower crayon. So Crayola makes these shower crayons because the best ideas come in the shower. The other day I had an amazing idea when I was doing push-ups at the gym. And I forgot what it was by the time. I'm sure it'll come back to me, but I've forgotten what it is.
You need a trainer with a recorder to be like, okay, push me real hard, and then when I'm saying stuff in the recorder.
Yeah, I was doing push-ups, and I do these sets of 100, and by the time I got back to the treadmill where my phone was, I lost it. But so the lesson is to be capturing your ideas to the extent you are smart, and it is possible. So, and then you're going to start marketing the fact that your book is coming the entire time you're working on your book. So at a certain point, you'll put it up for pre-order on Amazon if that is a platform that works for the outcome of your book, which would mean that your possible client base is worldwide or bigger than the small town you live in. If you're focused only in the small town you live in, you may or may not want to put it on Amazon because that's extra work that you probably don't want to do. Then if you're just having it yourself, then you'll have a web page on your website that people can go to find out and to sign up for your list so they can get notified when your book comes out. And then you're marketing your book. Then your book is out. It's launched. It's a bestseller on Amazon in its obscure category for 14 minutes. That's wonderful. But you want it to keep making money for you, which means the marketing never ends. There's a whole lot of energy and excitement around launch day, around launch week. I have a book that's coming out next Monday, so we've got 7 days. And so I emailed my advanced reader team today and said, thank you for those of you that sent in your form and told me what you love about it and what you don't love. And thank you in advance for leaving your review and buying the book and all those beautiful things. But it's a triathlon, not a sprint. Like I no longer get all woo about a launch day because I do a little. I have a cupcake, but there's always a cupcake with a book launch. But I really downshift into what's the long-term strategy for finding readers for my book from now until forever.
That's smart. Okay. If you don't mind, I'll just take a little bit of a left turn because you do have some specialized knowledge that I think certain segments of our watchers could use from. I saw that you've written a few different books to single parents and dealing with some of those things. And obviously single parent business owners are becoming more common than maybe they used to be. So for single parent business owners out there that are maybe feeling overwhelmed, not just from the business aspect, but from the family life, work balance aspect, maybe one or two tips to like how to start turning that tide back the other way and how to handle it all?
Yeah, so being a single mom or a single dad is in many ways better. I was a single mom for I think 7 years total, and when my daughter was young, so 2 to 9. And I was a multiple business owner, so I totally get this question. You have to become ninja like in your approach to everything. It really helps you to separate the wheat from the chaff. No was always my default answer. Someone would ask me a question and no was always my default answer because I didn't have time. And I realized later that that's a really good place to start, because if you start with no, you don't have to get yourself out of anything, but you can always get yourself back in. So would you like to serve on this board? Would you like to go on this trip? Would you like to engage in this program process? Whatever. And my answer was always, no, I'm not sure that I have time for that. I'm so honored by your request, but no. And then I could always call you back tomorrow and say, upon further reflection and being able to look at what you were asking, if the offer's still open, I'd love to come in. So it's always start with no, which leads me into healthy boundaries. You have to decide what's most important. And obviously you're most important, your kids are most important, and you have to take care of yourself. And self-care goes out the window generally when you are the solo parent or the primary parent or even a half-time parent. You're saying, okay, well, during that week when the kids are with their other parent, then I'll be doing all the things and there won't be any self-care. And you are not an effective human if you are not an effective human. I'm actually working on another book, The Miracle Morning for Single Moms, which is the whole reason that Hal and I came together. So I'm right in the middle of this topic right now. And you really have to, when you don't have that other set of hands, you have to build your community. You have to have healthy boundaries and you have to take good care of yourself. So I recommend, counterintuitive to fitting in more things, is to do meditation and to find time to exercise, because there is no feeling more powerful than I can do 100 push-ups. And there's no feeling more powerful than, no matter what the situation is, I have the calm presence of mind to handle whatever's thrown at me. And so taking those 2 blocks of time every day, even if they're tiny, even if they're 10 minutes each, will set you up to win with all of the other things.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. I think that's great advice. So one last bonus question, because you mentioned it. I know that the ninja tactics is another underlying theme of several of your books. So give us a brief overview of what kind of ninja tactics we need in our life to be successful.
Well, see, my ninja tactics came from being a single mom who was trying to make sure that my daughter could go to college and I could pay for all of the things. And so I don't ever look for the cheapest way to do something, but I look for the most effective. I work on multiple streams of income. So that's why when I wrote about your book having multiple streams of income, and I was just rewriting that section this morning about how once you have a solid a stream of income, go build another one, because the world is constantly changing. And if you can have streams of income where you're making money every single day, especially leveraged income, that's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So ninja tactics around making money, saving money, spending money, having your money, make money, giving away money, becoming a benefactor, all of those skills around money are really important. I would start there. And also then that starts with, how do you think about money? What do you believe about money? What do you believe you deserve money? All of that stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So for everyone watching that wants to keep following you or reading 50 books next week, or probably be 55 by next month
Oh
at the
my
rate you're
gosh.
going.
Oh my gosh.
What's the best way for them to?
So my website is honoreecorder.com, and I'm at Honorée everywhere. I'm an early adopter on the social media, so I usually get at Honorée for everything. And if this was not enough, then there is more. And I love answering emails and questions, so people can email me at honoreecorder.com. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. This was really great. We had a really great time and learned a lot. Appreciate you sharing your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.